Okay, we're going to get started. Wherever you are joining us from today, good day, and we thank you very much for joining us. My name is Joseph King. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Winwire, and we have a lot of material to cover in the next hour, so why don't we get started? First, a couple housekeeping notes. Um, Feel free to post your questions in the chat window up top. We will try to answer as many questions as we can towards the end. We are recording this session, as you could probably see, and we will share the recording with everyone in the next 24 to 48 hours. And of course, if there's any questions following this webinar, you can write to us at marketing@winwire, and I or someone on my team will get back to you. So why don't we get started? I want to introduce our two presenters today. First, we have Fouad, who is a ML solution architect at Microsoft Azure, and he is currently focused on generative AI and Azure OpenAI projects. And we also have Vineet Arora, who is the co-founder and CTO at Winwire. So thank you both very much for facilitating this discussion this afternoon. And without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to you, Vineet, to get us started.
Thank you very much, Joe, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to folks wherever you're joining from. Fuad, it's a pleasure to again partner with you to have deliver another webinar. Um, as some of you may have joined our previous webinars, we are going to be now talking about another interesting topic in the field of generative AI, everything to do with Copilot. And as you saw the title of the webinar, it's demystifying what the Copilot technology platform is all about and give you a little bit of a better perspective. I'm sure many of you who have been following the news and are in the Microsoft ecosystem at least have been looking at Microsoft 365 Copilot that has taken the entire technology world by storm. But I'm going to take a little bit of a different perspective and talk to you about what is that Copilot. Hand it over to Fuad after that to talk about the Microsoft platform overall around Copilot. And then we'll give you a little bit of a perspective on what is the platform that is available in terms of the development to build the new generation of this UX, user experience with the Copilots. We'll, of course, have any Q&As after that, and we will certainly look forward to following up with you after the webinar. I always love to start with this sort of a funny thing, right? If you have been in the IT industry long enough, and especially in the Microsoft ecosystem, all of you remember our friend Clippy. And the way I see it is, that's what is the sort of the history. But just to paraphrase, I think Microsoft has always been on the forefront of looking at how users interact with the computer system, how users work with the software application. And when Clippy came in, I remember I was in the industry, and it was either loved or hated. Less loved probably, but yes, probably it was a little bit ahead of time. And that was one of the ways in which the interaction that could be improved for the end user. There were add-ons that were created, right? This whole concept of add-ins that were created. And lately, as you would have all experienced, and this I'm giving you a real life screenshot of the Copilot that is now embedded into the Microsoft Word, for example, but certainly into a lot of other applications and systems also, right? It's just a new way to work about it. So the way I s- how do I explain, right, this concept of Copilot before we even go into the description of you know uh, how do you work with it? The way I say it is that it's an application that is using generative AI to assist you in the complex cognitive tasks. I literally see it as an evolution of how humans are going to be interacting with the computers. And few salient points, right? So it is a natural language interface, right, which is integrated into an application UI, right? And I will continue to say application UI. One thing that I want to clarify is that this webinar is not about Microsoft 365 Copilot, which is one of the most, I would say, popular uh, version or instance or whatever you want to call it of the Copilot in the end users realm, right? But I'm talking about as a concept and how do we actually build it, right? So I'll refer to it as any application or system, right? And the objective is to drive productivity and faster responses. It, of course, is built upon the models which are provided by generative AI, right? Uses text-based instructions that result in actually performing some actions, right, rather than just some textual outputs, right? That's an important distinction. Now you will say, okay, I can do that in Chat GPT. Uh, it is built on the same foundation as Chat GPT, but Copilot as a concept is in the context of a system or an application, right? So um, any application like the Word or Excel that you use on a day-to-day basis, or even Teams and other applications that you use, have a Copilot that Microsoft is providing to you, right? It's using the underlying LLM, which ChatGPT is also based upon. But in addition, it is also using Microsoft Graph and other technologies to provide you a contextual output. And the one question that I hear from many customers is, okay, it looks like a chatbot, right? I have been having chatbots for ages, probably. Um, you know, and the way I'd like to clarify to everyone is that's true. Both chatbots and copilots are different types of conversational AI system. They interact with the end user as you in natural language. However, chatbots are created for a specific task and a topic, right? While Copilot are a little bit more wider. And there is an overlap for sure, but the way I define it is chatbot is simulating a human conversation. You're chatting with someone. It's limited on information that is provided to that chatbot. It's on a particular topic. It automates information retrieval. Copilot is taking it to the next level. It is still a chat based, but it's an assistant which is understanding the complex text-based request. When I say complex is because you're not just asking a question, you may be asking or you may be providing instructions to have some action being taken. And that is an important distinction to make because that is translated into an actual action for an application or a service. And I'll show you an example of that. I have this table created. I won't go through each bullet point, but you can certainly make a good sense out of it that when you look at functionality or the scope or the user experience of the output, how do you differentiate between chatbots and Copilot? Please note that I'm not differentiating between Chat GPT or Bard or any of those other conversational AIs that exist out there. I'm talking about Copilot as a concept, primarily on the Microsoft platform, right? And chatbots as more generic options that have been available on Microsoft and various other platforms as such, right? The most important point that I wanted to focus on is the user experience, right? Um, it is a chat based user experience, but as you will see both from the tools that are available, the responses for chatbots are typically limited to where the context is, right? You may be providing different kinds of information from a particular data set, but copilots are going to be a lot more interactive, right? What is the benefit, right? Why do we need copilots in the first place? um, I believe that it's challenging how we have interacted with the computer system. So probably last 20 plus years, or I would say even more than that, since the time the graphical user interface has come into being, mouse and keyboard based interactions, even touch screen interactions have happened, right? People have, got used to that from the green screen old age that many of you may or may not be from. But now we are talking about, right, instead of using commands and menus and 5 different clicks to achieve something can I ask as a natural language and have something being done? Right. That's what I call as the new paradigm, which is the human and AI collaboration, where users can express the intents and goals in a natural language. Copilot, the way it is designed as a solution, can understand and then assist them in that best possible solution, but also learn and take the feedback and understand the preferences, not just responding to a question, but taking some actions. You know, the other way to look at it is that you're basically providing a new way to access, process, and generate information, right? While reducing the cognitive load. I see lots of benefits in terms of application adoption, users training being reduced because everybody is used to or easy to use the language that they're used to. And English is not the only language. These are all multilingual. So it doesn't matter which part of the world, which country you're from, you'll be able to use that, right? And there are different scenarios. I'm sure you've heard about it, but just one last slide to emphasize the point that chatbots are going to stay. They are not going to go away. They are not going to be replaced by copilots, but they are serving a particular purpose, be it customer service, which is where you see most of the time in most of the websites, or even in healthcare, education, and manufacturing, and every other stream where you are providing some kind of information to the end user. Co-pilots are taking it to the next level, right, by performing actions as a part of that conversation. And that is an important point. I want to show you one example so that you can sort of understand the context of how we are talking about the Copilot to be implemented. And I'm not going to just show you Microsoft 365 Copilot because I'm sure everyone has seen enough demos of it in the last 3 to 4 months or maybe longer, since Microsoft has been doing a great job. And that is a amazing productivity enhancement for your information worker. What I'm talking about is a solution like this. This is a solution that is for a healthcare, large organization, which is managing their uh, services to their patients. And there is a complex AI algorithm behind it about how nurses, in this particular case, that have to serve the patients. What you see in this part of the screen is the application that if I was a normal user, I could click on all these drop downs and apply, filter, click on the name, and work through that particular application. What the Copilot is actually enabling is what I want to show you as the new user experience is now I'm logged in as an end user. I'm still a user that is aware of what the application can do. But what I can do is I can actually ask the application, right, in a natural language to say, show me all clinician around Manhattan, right? I could have done the same thing by zooming in, by clicking in, right? What it is doing is it's translating this text, taking the intent, converting it into some action, and changing the UI itself of the application. And I could continue this conversation, and I want to specifically ask for, in this particular case, Kelly Morgan's schedule, right? That's what the schedule is. Great. I want to look at her current location along with all the rest of the appointments. I want to look at the patients that have an appointment. I could basically, you know, ask the application like I would be chatting with somebody who has a lot of this information, right? But I'm able to, without doing any mouse clicks, of course, I'm doing some mouse clicks out here in terms of entering and all, but I'm not going through a plethora of applications, right? I could also look at these scenarios like update the map with delayed appointments, right? So there is a delayed appointment in this particular case. And what I want to show you is how do you actually um, change the application, make a change, right? This is an action. So this is now takes it from the next level from just a Q&A of information retrieval to actually doing certain action where it's going and making a change into the backend system. And that's what is a very, very impactful scenario where you can get a good sense of how a chat-based UI can change the experience for the end user. Hopefully, you folks got a good sense of it. We can certainly talk more. We have more examples of this. You saw how you're replacing the mouse clicks and a lot of keyboard entries. Uh, there is inbuilt automation and it's guiding you through the steps, and that's going to be, in my belief, a fundamental change in how we are going to be looking at building newer software applications, as it becomes, of course, a part of our day-to-day application with the entire Microsoft platform. And on that note, I want to hand it over to Fuad to talk about what is Microsoft bringing to the market in terms of this whole Copilot world. And then we will talk about how to build similar solutions for your enterprise application. I'll give you a sneak peek into the tools that are available on that. Fuad, if you want to take it from here.
Hey, thanks, Vineet. It's always great to co-present with you. And hi, everyone. Again, I'm Fuad. I'm a machine learning solution architect with Microsoft, and I'm gonna walk you through a few different, I would say, slides just to give you an overview of Copilots and what we are currently releasing to the market from Microsoft perspective. But just before going into details of that, let's think about what are the transformation opportunities in the space of AI. I know we are all excited about what AI can do for us, but we think about this in multiple different buckets. The first one is to enrich the employee experiences. And I know Vineet already alluded to M365, but I want to put that under the bucket of enriching employee experience. Employees can be more productive. Employees can focus on more productive tasks and let the mundane tasks to be done by AI or by the Copilot, and then have a lot more time to spend on tasks that need more, let's say, creativity or complexity. Let's then go to the next use case or bucket of use cases. You can have the customer engagement, and you can reinvent that. And the customer engagement can be in multiple facets. It could be through, let's say, customer service. It could be on your website, or it could be, let's say, on call centers. All these can and are being currently reinvented using Gen AI. Business processes can become more efficient. I know Vineet already alluded to. You can have, let's say, a process that starts with some conversation or text, but in the back end, it can call into a few, let's say, APIs to open a ticket or generate a process or a flow. So it can make the business processes a lot more efficient, and that's all already implemented within Microsoft, and many of our customers have already also built that into their solutions as well. So the opportunity and the possibilities are endless, but those are a few examples. I'm looking forward to see what you all are doing to, bend the curve of the innovation there as well. So if we could go to the next slide, please. So the Microsoft Copilot is touching every other role and every other persona. If you're in sales, we have the Microsoft Copilot for sales. If you are in software development, we have the Microsoft Copilot in GitHub, which is called GitHub Copilot, which is one of our most mature offerings in the market. For knowledge workers, for data and IT, for security, we have the Microsoft Security Copilot, and so on and so forth. So we are using this term Copilot as a, let's say, product offering that's being that's enhancing our Gen AI capabilities within different product stacks. So for every role and every persona, there is a Copilot available for them to work more efficiently. If we could go to the next slide, please. Here is a snapshot of all the different Microsoft Copilots that are available. For example, the Microsoft Copilot within Fabric and Power BI would help you generate reports a lot more quicker. You would be able to ask questions like, what's been the sales in the past 3 months? on this specific product, for example. It would generate the query and it would create the reports for you with the trends. You can ask like why this thing has increased or decreased. It would be able to look into data and provide some explanation. I know we talked about M365 and the dynamics and Windows and all that is available. The cool thing or very, very interesting thing behind this is all this is running on Microsoft Cloud as well. So all these different copilots that we are releasing to the market in the backend is running on Azure and is built on top of Azure. And that's an important distinction because I want to talk about that as well. Out of the box, we have SaaSified copilots that are available in the product stack. Behind the scenes, this is all powered by Azure OpenAI models, and by our infrastructure. So with that power, you are also able to build your custom-built models and copilots as well. And that's a good time to go to this slide. You can build your own AI capabilities as well. And that would be using your applications and your own data that would give you the edge or the differentiation, let's say, in this market. So if you have a product stack specifically that you're looking into building a Copilot, that's also available to you depending on the use case. So if we could move on to the next slide. So let's take a pause here and think about building your own AI capabilities. To the left, I would say that's the most out of the box. You can customize Microsoft Copilots. So let's say M365 Copilot currently is available. You can customize that. And that is done through plugins or connectors where you would be able to connect your business data sources or external, let's say, data sources that you have in other, areas stored. And you can build on top of that and connect it to that and use the plugins. So you can customize your Copilot in order to fit your business better. In the middle, you have build your own copilots. And building your own copilots, we have multiple ways of building a copilot. That would be a good fit for scenarios where you need a more customized solution. That's something very specific to your business, to your tasks. You want to build a copilot. That would take that's a process that you need to spend time to build, and it would give you a very specific solution. And lastly, it would be to partner with Microsoft partners, as like Minwire is our partner. So you would be able to partner with our partners. You can either use their connectors. They could be able to help you build these copilots or specific solutions as well. So if you could go to the next slide, please. Let's zoom in on customizing Microsoft Copilots and how's that possible. Here are a few use cases or the top use cases for customizing Microsoft Copilots. If you have like critical scenario responses, or you wanted to expand on horizontal workflows, or if you wanted to add like plugins and GPTs that we already discussed, or you wanted to connect your business data, that's all part of customizing your Microsoft Copilot. So, for example, let's say you have licenses for M365 Copilot within your organization. You want to use some plugins or you want to connect it to your business data. That's all available. So it gives you the availability to expand on the reach of the Microsoft Copilot. And that's very powerful. So a lot of our partners, a lot of our customers have already built these plugins and they're available. If we could go to the next slide, please. The other path forward, in case, let's say, the M365 or the out-of-the-box solution does not fit your use case. Let's say you have a more specific use case that needs a lot more customization, then you can build or customize a new Copilot for your business. We have the low-code solution, as we call it, the Microsoft Copilot Studio, which is low-code. You'd be able to use the UI side and build your Copilot. And we have the Pro Code, which is the Azure AI Studio for all the machine learning engineers and data scientists out there who would like to use Python and AI to build a Copilot. And that would rely on our Azure OpenAI services. So we are providing a spectrum from the left-hand side would be our Copilots out of the box like M365 low-code solution using Microsoft Copilot Studio, or our pro-code solution, Azure AI Studio, for you to have a range of options in order to choose when to use all these different, I would say, available options. Let's go to the next slide, please. These are some of the top, I would say, use cases or capabilities for building your own copilots. If you wanted to chat with your data, let's say in the backend, you have a knowledge base, you wanted to answer some questions or ask some questions and get some information out of the data, you could chat with it. In case of content generation, you can create content for marketing or emails. You can have customer-facing copilots where they can start answering questions or help customers. Or you could have intelligent analytics. For example, you have, let's say, a structured database and it has a query language. You want to ask questions on top of it. The Copilot here, the large language models working on it, would be able to translate your language, let's say from English, to a query language, and you can then do intelligent analytics. And we already have implemented that in Power BI, but I know there are out there multiple other languages that customers are interested. So you might want to build a specific Copilot for that as well, and that's available. We could go to the next slide, please. Very briefly, without going into the details, but here is the Copilot stack architecture. At the bottom, it all relies on Microsoft Cloud. It has the AI infrastructure and the foundation models. That's all running on our Azure cloud platform. Your data also resides in our cloud platform. Then on top of it, you would have the orchestration, you would have the Microsoft applications, your Copilots, Microsoft Copilots, and Copilot Studio. So the stack currently all runs in Azure, and at different levels of abstraction, it is available to you to use. And all of that is wrapped by our AI safety and security. It's governed by our highest enterprise level AI safety and security, including our responsible AI and governance. Let's go to the next slide, please, as well. So with that, I'm gonna kind of wrap up my part of the conversation. I'll pass it back to Vineet in a few moments. But if you wanted to kickstart your AI transformation, you could explore Microsoft Copilots if you haven't already started. There are multiple different Copilots available, including the M365 and the GitHub Copilot. And it would boost every employee's productivity, you can make every other team more effective. And on the other side of the house, you could also start building your own AI capabilities. You can start customizing these copilots, and you could use them to make more intelligent applications. And in both scenarios, you could get additional, help from our partners like Winwire, and we can all work together for you to get there a lot more quicker. So with that, I'm gonna pass it back to Vineet for the next section.
Thank you very much, Fuad. Appreciate your perspective. Folks, as you heard Fuad talk about, and as I was saying, the whole Copilot concept that I explained, of course, emerges from Microsoft's vision of taking intelligent apps, the new experience, and all the platforms that they provide. You heard about that. I want to just talk about how do you actually approach this, right? And in a very simple manner, what already has been happening, and I think will be accelerating on a weekly, on a monthly basis, is the adoption of copilots that are being provided by Microsoft as the prime vendor, but also many other customers who provide SaaS solutions will have Copilot kind of functionalities built into their applications. What we are seeing customers is they're adopting the Copilot along with Microsoft 365 as the primary platform. But there are copilots, as you heard Fuad talk about, in Dynamics 365, in even Power Platform as a base Windows platform. Of course, we haven't even talked about too much about, but GitHub Copilot was one of the first Copilots that really provided that experience. So it addresses all different personas where the tools and the applications that you use, from software developers to even architects to infrastructure managers, system administrators, who will be able to use Azure Copilot, to, of course, the majority of the information workers who use Microsoft products on a day-to-day basis, and all the other SaaS solutions will have those Copilots. I equate it to about 10, 15 years back, when mobility became as a growing transformation in the IT industry, right? All applications were becoming mobile enabled. But where did it start? It started mostly with what the mobile platform and the device manufacturers provided to them, right? The enterprise applications that we were used to using on desktops and even web browsers, right, took their own sweet time, but it was needed because the users were getting so used to doing typical tasks that they are used to in interacting with different entities, be it a bank, be it a shopping, on the mobile device, that they were starting to demand that why can't I do my enterprise applications also on the mobile device? I see the same kind of a transformation, same kind of an evolution happening. You, as the end user, whatever your role and persona is, will be using everything from the day-to-day tools like PowerPoint and Excel and Word to uh, even the browser, the one built in Edge, and you will be getting used to Copilot as the new user experience. But your enterprise applications that you're building, developing, they right now don't have that Copilot. So how do you look at those? Fuad talked about the two key tools, and I want to give you a preview in the time that we have available about each of those tools. What do they look like? What are the capabilities at a high level? And of course, we'll be happy to do a much more deeper dive overview of these solutions with your data, with your scenarios as the need be. The first one is Microsoft Copilot Studio, and the second one is Azure AI Studio. Before that, I just want to give you a perspective of, at Winwire, we are a software consulting and development firm. When we look at this new age of AI-based application development, right, where LLMs are at the core of it, your typical SDLC models has to also evolve. And this is just a very high level perspective on from ideation all the way to looking at rolling it out. How do you manage that entire life cycle? Right? I'll be happy to do a dedicated deep dive session just on this particular topic around LLM ops, but this is how we see the entire management and the tools the reason I'm showing you this is the tools that we are talking about that are being released by Microsoft. Some of them are generally available, some of them are still in preview mode, but actually addressing every stage of this particular life cycle. And that is an important element to understand. The first one that I want to show you quickly and talk about is the Microsoft Copilot Studio, right? And that's the official term, and that's what we need to be very, very clear about is that's the tool, which is a SaaS-based solution. Now, it is available on the web. It is also available and integrated with Teams. Of course, you need to have the necessary licenses and everything else. And if you have been developing for Teams or even otherwise for chatbots on the Microsoft platform, you may be aware of Microsoft Power Virtual Agents. This is built on the same technology and enhanced a lot with generative AI and many other capabilities that have existed, uh, all brought under the umbrella of the Microsoft Copilot Studio. Now, the clear distinction is it's a low code platform, right? And it is to build two different scenarios. You can customize the Copilot that you currently have, right? Which comes in with your Word and Excel and all those other Office tools in different scenarios where you may want to retrieve data from your custom databases from your internal systems. You could also build your own standalone copilots using this tool, right? And this is where it's a clear distinction where governance and many other aspects of security will come into the picture, but the platform capabilities is there, very similar to the Power Platform that has allowed to build applications, right? Folks who have been used to Power Automate, used to be called Flow, uh, it's again very much integrated as a part of this uh, studio itself, but it extends it to build those plugins, build those workflows, but also test them, publish them, and really under different channels. So let me give you a quick sort of a snapshot of what it looks like. And then, of course, if you're interested in looking at a much detailed and a customized demo, we'll be more than happy to schedule something with you. So let me just go from here to out of this. Oops. Here we go. So this is copilotstudio.microsoft.com, right? And of course, as you will see, some of you may be familiar with interface. I've just created one, demo Copilot under a particular environment. Uh, if you are familiar with the Power Platform, it is building on top of the Power Platform. So you have all the different environments under which you can build. That's the same environment around the Dataverse and the that you'll be building on. But what you will see is you can build new copilots. You can also build new plugins, which you can, of course, integrate with your backend systems, right? And these, of course, as you see, create different kinds of plugins also, where you may even build prompts, a library of prompts. You may build flows that you've been building, I'm sure, for long. All of this is integrated into one environment, right? You could also look at building and deploying your own models. As you see, some of these are in preview mode, right? And these are some things that you will need to explore. There are pre-built models that Microsoft is providing around even things like invoice processing. Now you will say, "Oh, I have done this using what used to be Azure Form Recognizer, for example." Right? Exactly, it's such a standard use case that it has been built into a model and a template that can be used and deployed. So this is your enterprise environment where you can build those copilots. I'll quickly show you one demo copilot that I built where I'm providing just our website, for example, as the as the as the sort of the data source. You could add files. You could have generative AI capabilities. You could also create topics. Now, again, we won't have time to delve into the entire details, but topics is basically utterances that you may expect your users to be talking about. And based upon that, you may want to do a particular flow and take a particular, provide a particular response or take particular actions. And you have, plugin actions where you may want to connect to your backend system, to your ERP systems, and build based upon that. So the that's where the entire one single studio low code platform, provides you to build your own copilots, build your plugins. And if I can show you, let me just see if I can also bring in, oops, let me just see if it is possible. The same tool that I'm talking about is also available in Teams. I'll just give you a quick snapshot. You see the Microsoft Copilot Studio. It's an app that I've installed within my Teams. And you could do the similar capabilities, very close on building. And this is what you will provide typically maybe to your end users, where they may want to build a Copilot, right? Like you will build, and this will be hosted within Teams, right? As you can imagine. So that's how I could, provide them a specific team within that. So in this case, it's Winnow Technologies. We have a particular team. I could build a Copilot, and you will see a very similar experience if I was doing it on the web. But the capabilities of what you build out here is in the context of the user who is creating, and then they will be able to host it within the teams, publish it to a small team that may want to use this particular Copilot, or maybe even publish it with the administrative approval to the entire organization if the need comes in. Let me get out of this and talk about this. So a chat-based interface is automatically available. What you can do, we'll talk about probably in a dedicated webinar around this. But I want to show you that what you can do is you could publish this, what you built as a webinar, right, to different channels, right? Actually, I should have. Right? I want to show you the different channels. You could build it and publish it into the Copilot, the Microsoft Copilot itself as an add-on. You could publish it to your teams. You could also build a demo website. You could also have mobile websites and Facebook. The reason some of these are blocked is because I have already published it to teams, right? And when I built another one, I could do that. What you will see is without writing a single line of code, I could ask, I'm just going to be a little bit in this. And because I have, looked at the Winwire website as the source, right? I could actually, get the answer to that particular question. Haven't written a single line of code. So think about it. If you have some kind of a data source like this, you could build a Copilot in a matter of minutes using Microsoft Copilot Studio. That's a quick snapshot of what I want to show you for the Copilot Studio. Please go ahead, explore it. But if you're interested, we'll be able to look at your custom scenario and show you end-to-end demo with your data. That's what are the services that we provide. I want to talk for the next few minutes for the next stage of building the custom copilots, right? Which is where Azure AI Studio comes into the picture. Now, this, of course, has a slightly different audience, right? This is your developers, architects, data scientists, data engineers, everybody, again, collaborating into one environment. And if you have been in the Azure AI development, you know that there are various tools that have come over the last few years. And Azure AI Studio is the attempt from Microsoft to consolidate all of it. And I'm just going to build this in the interest of time. And the entire LLM ops cycle that I talked about can be managed in AI Studio, different AI services, different cognitive services, everything can be managed out here. And typically, the Copilot that you develop here is deployed as a part of your enterprise application, at the product maybe you're building. Like these are the ones where you have a lot more flexibility and capabilities, which you are able to do that. So let me just show you a quick. Now, this is in preview edition right now, but of course, very soon, I'm sure this will be coming up with more. Now, when you go here, right, what you will see is it's a development environment. So I've just built a custom pilot, right? Now this is running with Azure as the backend, right? So was the other platform, but it was the CDS and the Dataverse were there. The Explore, if you look at it, you will be able to see what are the various models that are available for you to work with. You can actually benchmark different models that Microsoft is providing and compare them for different kind of scenarios, right? This is all basically an exploration that you could do. You could look at different capabilities. As I said, this is now one-stop shop for you to work with everything to do with Azure AI services and cognitive services, and including content safety that we have covered in one of our earlier webinars around responsible AI, or look at prompts. The real fun happens in this level where you're building. What does building mean? Let me just say it's basically a project that you will create, right? And I'll just give it a sample webinar demo, right? I'll create a new resource. Basically, you're not in the Azure environment. You, of course, have the necessary permissions. And what you are able to do is right? It'll create the resource group, it'll create whatever is required, and basically it builds a lot of services, as you can see, right, on your behalf, right? a keyword, a storage account, an application insight. I mean, this is amazing how you could do it with one single click and get a complete AI project. I'll show you what has been deployed already. This is the one that I deployed just before the webinar. What you will see is if you have used Azure AI OpenAI Studio, right? You will see a very similar playground available for you, right, as a part of this environment itself. So this is with your data, with your scenario, right? You also have all the other tools, right, where you could manage your prompt, include speech if you're looking at it, do fine tuning. Of course, look at connecting with your data, right? Look at different kinds of search indexes. I mean, till about even few months ago, building some of these required going to multiple tools, multiple places, doing some, hand coding. And when I say hand coding, ARM templates and scripts, PowerShell scripts to be run and stuff like that. This is one amazing environment where you have everything from managing security to deployment to all the testing that you like to do built into one environment itself. Even if you want to go a little bit more underneath, look at the actual Azure resource. You can do it right here. And the custom Copilot, right, as you will see, as I showed you, this is something that I believe built. It already built an Azure OpenAI service. It built a cognitive service. It has some blob storage created. Uh, Everything has been set up for you. And then you have various other options around managing the billing, managing the compute instance. This is one single development platform, as I talked about, for you to build a Copilot application and then ultimately deploy it into an Azure environment where you will need to be able to run through the entire LLM ops cycle. As I said, we may not have time to, of course, go through an end-to-end scenario. There is a lot more to cover on all of these um, both of these studios. Will be happy to do a deep dive as you're looking at. But just the key takeaways, right? Copilots as a concept, I believe, is already and will usher a new era of user experience for applications. You are going to be able to have your enterprise applications chat enabled, but chat enabled does not mean just retrieving question and answers, doing actions. What you also saw, and Fuad talked about it, I've talked about it, as you start adopting Microsoft 365 Copilot and all of its corresponding solutions around Dynamics 365, you will be able to build plugins that are going to be for enterprise scenarios where you can retrieve information from other systems and provide a very seamless experience in the standard Copilot that is available with the Office platform in this particular case. Then, of course, we talked about the two studios that are available, the low-code platform and a complete LLM ops and a development platform for building custom copilots, which I believe are going to be the next generation of development experience that many of us will need to get used to. We are not learning new languages, we are learning new development experiences. And with that, I'm going to stop here and take any questions. And Fuad can also answer any questions if you folks have it. We will be following this webinar with a lot more deep dive on both of these studios as they enhance in their capabilities and what we see, how customers are using it, and hope you folks also get to use both these studios and really build those custom copilots that are going to enhance your own internal productivity. Joe, I'm going to hand it over back to you if there
Yeah,
are any questions that we can answer.
thank you, Vinny. Hey, great stuff, guys. Both of you. Thank you. This was very insightful. I'm sure there are some questions out there. I've actually received a few already. So if you do have a couple questions, please raise them in the chat. But let me get started with a couple quick answer questions. Can Microsoft Copilot work with content from Google Docs or other similar systems?
Yes, I believe that is possible. There are till the time the user has access to those information that is stored on the other cloud platforms. Those data can be processed. There may be scenarios where you may need to build, as we said, uh, Copilot, right? Custom Copilots to integrate with systems if they are behind a particular firewall or if they are an external systems. But if it's content that you're trying to summarize or process and it's accessible to you over a URL, you know, the standard Copilots can process those.
Okay, good to know. Next question is around cost. What is the cost of building a Copilot for an application? General range.
That's always a great question. I think there are two costs, right? One, and Fuad, if you have anything to add to it, there is always a cost for the underlying platform usage, where you will need to have licenses based upon the type of roles, how many developers, how many users are going to use it. So Microsoft has its pricing around licenses for something like Microsoft 365 Copilot, but also the Copilot Studio, very much published, right? The second cost would be, as you use the compute and the data storage on an Azure. Of course, it's a much larger discussion, but like any typical scenario for using a cloud-based apps, it's based upon consumption. And the third cause that you have to understand, which is difficult to determine and articulate, is all around services that somebody will provide, either your own team or you're outsourcing it. You're using experts like our team. That there is a services cost associated with it. So licensing is a lot more deterministic because it's published. Pay as you go. You have to do some calculations, and based upon your business use case scenarios, you will look at what is the cost of developing this as a custom solution.
Great. So I see a couple questions coming in, so we'll get to that in a second. Just quick reminder, because Vineet and Fouad went through some of this very quickly. If anybody is interested in a demo or a deeper dive session to better understand your environment and how this could be applicable for your enterprise, feel free. marketing@winwire.com. I personally monitor that email, and we can look into setting something up at a convenient time with Vineet and Fouad. Couple questions that have come in, guys. When should we use?
Yeah, I'm seeing those, Joe.
Okay.
Surya, when you use Microsoft 365 Copilot versus through my MS Copilot Studio, Microsoft 365 Copilot is like a product that you're on a services that you're buying, like you have bought Microsoft 365 itself, right? Which is a suite of products that you get, right? Copilot is an add-on to that suite, and it gets enabled for your applications. You will be able to use it with the information that is in your Microsoft 365 environment that is connected through the graph. When you need to extend it, that's when you will need to use the Copilot Studio, as Fuad talked about it, as I showed, on building customizations to that Copilot that is available. They are not really one and the same. Copilot Studio is the development environment to extend the 365 Copilot capabilities that are available. Fuad, please go ahead and add from your side.
Yeah, no, that's great. I wanted to kind of maybe answer this question and the previous question around costs and maybe kind of tie them together.
Please.
But for the question about when to use M365 and when to use Copilot Studio or customize your own, I would say maybe before thinking about the solution, it's good to think about what's the problem and who's the persona. So if we can come up with like, this is my problem, this is what I'm trying to solve, specifically, this is the persona, then we, as Microsoft or our partners, would be able to help you navigate that. Like, I give you an example. If you have a developer persona who needs more productivity, it wouldn't be any of these two. It would be GitHub Copilot. But let's say you have like a very specific business transaction or process that you want to automate using Gen AI. Maybe then you need to build your own Copilot. But let's say you have like frontline workers who are sending a lot of emails on a daily basis. M365 Copilot might be a good fit. So instead of us thinking about the solution first, let's first think about what's the problem and what's the persona. And with that, let's think about the cost. So in my slides, I guess to the left, you had the M365 or all the Copilots that we offer at Microsoft. That comes out of the box. That's a satisfied product. You purchase the license. As you move to the right and start building your own, you're more and more just paying for the infrastructure, and that's consumption-based. But you also need to think about the cost of building it and maintaining it. So it's just a trade-off between the two, as we all know. It's either a managed SaaS offering or it's an offering that you're going to build and maintain, and the costs are like different in that regard. So I'm going to pass it back to you, Joe, for any other questions.
No, that's an excellent point, and thank you very much for that.
Sure.
Back to the other question that I got on the Azure AI Studio versus Azure OpenAI Studio. So, Veera, the question that you're asking, what I didn't show you is, I'm back to the demo environment, is all of those studios are now sort of integrated, at least from a UI perspective in terms of accessing, but the purposes are different. So if I click on OpenAI Studio, it opens the OpenAI Studio as you're used to, right? Now, that's the Gen AI scenario that has been there for quite some time, right? You will be able to build, all these scenarios. But our suggestion, and for if you have any recommendation, is that as you evolve into an enterprise complete DevSecOps scenario, this is the place where you will be able to leverage all of those capabilities. But those individual studios for your own testing of individual cognitive services and APIs are still available and are going to be there. But the same thing you'll be able to do out here at the part of the context of a project with different roles collaborating on each of them. And again, if you see, I'll cover this in a detailed webinar, but this is all integrated with Visual Studio. It will be pipeline driven. So everything is integrated now into the AI Studio.
No, that's a great way of, showing it. I definitely agree with that. So the Azure AI Studio is this platform that we have built that kind of unifies all these, let's say, smaller subsets. For example, we have like our AI content safety studio, we have our language studio, we have the Azure OpenAI Studio. All these different language and visual services that we provide all falls under one large umbrella of Azure AI Studio. So you can think of Azure AI Studio as your, like, let's say, main platform to do all your AI work, but it has also connections to do those other studios as well, as Vineet was showing on the drop-down menu.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Fuad.
Yeah,
Hope
thank
that
you.
answers the question. I know we are almost out of time, but hopefully, folks, this is a good starting point and introduction, enough for you to get a good perspective about what the Copilot platform is, how it changes the user experience for enterprise applications, and how you can start thinking and building about it.
Thank you, guys. And yeah, I think this is, I've lost track, but I think this is the 4th or 5th different webinar that Fuad and Vineet have done going back to spring of 2023. And we keep getting really good turnout and response. And we want to continue the discussion with all of you. So same email that I mentioned earlier, if you've got any ideas for any other webinar topics that you'd like Fuad and Vineet to cover in the months to come, please drop us an email on that as well. We've got our own ideas, but we'd love to hear from you. We do have our next webinar scheduled for March 21st. You could see it there on your screen, diving into the world of migration and Microsoft Fabric and workloads. So we look forward to having all of you join us then. So Fuad, Vineet, thank you so much for the last hour. This was insightful. and look forward to continuing the discussion.
Thank
Yeah.
you, everyone. Look
Thanks,
forward to
everyone.
connecting more. Thanks, Fuad. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank you, Vineet. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Our pleasure.
Bye-bye.